As part of my job, I'm often driving across various parts of the United States to pick up Skylanders. Along the way, I like to stop at various shops to see if not only they carry Skylanders, but if I can find anything for the SCL shop. On a recent trip, I passed through Illinois and Indiana. So let's see what these states have to offer. I got a bit of a late start on this trip, but my first stop was in Rockford, Illinois. Welcome to Skylanders hunting after dark. All in all, it wasn't a bad stop. I was able to pick up 6 different pieces. I picked up 3 figures and 3 games. First up was a soda skimmer, got a Nightfall, and a fist bump. For the games, we got a collection of PlayStation 3 games, including Spyro's Adventure, Giants, and Swap Force. Now, you may have seen me pick up a few other figures in this shop and wonder why I didn't get them. In particular, the Rocky Roll and the Enchanted Elven Forest. But upon closer inspection, they did actually have some damage, and so I decided to put them back. But they were relatively cheap yet. I think they only would have cost $4 or $5 each. So if you're in the area, go ahead and check them out, especially if that damage doesn't bother you. Our next stop is in Bloomington, Illinois. This is a new store, or at least a new to me store. Checking out a new location today. This is actually a Mega Replay, owned by the same company as Disc Replay and all of them, but I've never been here before. Let's see what we can find. The figure selection here was right about what you would expect in most game stores nowadays, but I was able to pull out a few portals as well as a few games. Picked up a pair of Trap Team portals, one for the Xbox 360 and one for the Nintendo PlayStation, the interchangeable one. And I even stumbled across an Xbox One portal. And as you can see, they're only asking $5 for it. But Xbox One, it's right there on the label. That's why I always think it's worth a few minutes of your time to dig around in those portal bins or however they have them assorted on hangers or hooks or whatever. You never know what you might find. For the games this time, I picked up a few Xbox 360 games, Spyro's Adventure and Giants there, as well as a copy of Spyro's Adventure for the 3DS. I was a little skeptical about this location at first because it took me a while to actually find where they were storing the Skylanders. But once I did find them, I found some decent stuff, and I'd probably go back. But what really sealed the deal for me was when I went to check out, there was a second employee behind the counter who's just kind of glancing over the shoulder of the first employee, and they looked down at what I was buying, looked back up. It's like, thank you for taking that. And I think they just don't sell a lot of Skylanders stuff in their store. And more often than not, people are just willing to get rid of this stuff as fast as possible. If I had a little bit more time on my hands, I may have stayed around and maybe tried to barter a little bit and see if I could take everything off their hands for them for the right price. But then again, with chain stores like these, I don't know how much bargaining power the average employee actually has. Maybe if the manager was on site, they could get a deal for me. I don't know, but that might be an experiment to try in the future. Next, we're on to Champaign, Illinois. This is a location that I have visited quite frequently, much like the Rockford location. And Honestly, I think this is the location I've had the most luck at overall. So I'm excited to come back here and see. It's been a few months since I've stopped in, and we'll see what they have. Unfortunately, this time, not quite as bountiful as some stops in the past have been, but I still didn't leave empty handed. I managed to pick up a Series 2 Wrecking Ball as well as Double Trouble 1.5. I love these little guys. The next stop on this trip is, I think, technically part of Indianapolis. It's on the west side. It's listed as Avon, the Avon location, I guess. And I think I've been here once before, so we'll see what it looks like this time. Back in Indiana. Been to this shop before. Last time they had a gold chop, I believe, and big bucket of other stuff. So I'm very curious to see not only if that chop is still here, but what their stock looks like overall. So, well, most of the disc replay locations have very similar pricing. This Indianapolis or Avon location does tend to have slightly lower prices than most. And so I think that's why I often walk out of the store with figures that I might not buy elsewhere sometimes, just because of the slightly lower pricing. At this location, I picked up figures, games, portals, everything really. First figure was a Series 2 Flame Slinger. Then I was able to find 2 hot dogs. Our first swapper of the trip, Fire Kraken. I got 2 more games for the Xbox 360, another copy of Spyro's Adventure, as well as a Swap Force. And then I picked up something that I normally bypass. I glance at them, but the pricing just doesn't usually make sense. Some disc replay locations actually have starter bundles. They've bundled together a game, a portal, and the starter pack figures in most cases. And I don't usually buy starter pack figures outright, so I usually kind of ignore them. And if it's just a normal portal, it doesn't really make sense for me since I sell them relatively cheap too. Like, I just can't get the pricing to work. But in this case, we got Trap Team here. And they had the Trap Team portal along with a copy of Trap Team for the Wii. And of course, then the Snapshot Food Fight and the 2 traps. But the real reason to get this is the price. They had it all for just $7.99. I mean, I would have considered paying $7.99 just for that portal, but throw in the game and a couple extra figures, and absolutely, I'll buy that. So we did get this bundle, $7.99 for all those 6 items. So I mean, it's almost $1 an item, and that's hard to pass up. As you may have noticed, I visit a lot of disc replay and now even mega replay locations, particularly in Illinois and Indiana, because that's where they seem to be the most prevalent. While selection is going to vary greatly by store, I have found that I'd say at least 80% of the disc replay stores I've visited have Skylanders products, and maybe about 80% of the ones that have products I usually buy from. So their prices are good. Depending on the day, they may or may not have something you're looking for, but if you're in the area, I would highly recommend checking them out. In Illinois, I've personally been to the Bloomington, Champaign, and Rockford locations. In Indiana, I've been to all 4 Indianapolis locations. So that's the Indy East, Castleton, Indy South, and Avon. And I've also been to Terre Haute. At some point, I do hope to investigate these stores more thoroughly and maybe make a specific video about disc replay or about locations in Indiana or just Illinois and try to hit all of them. But I also want to explore other areas and other smaller shops that maybe aren't chains and see if there's anything else to be had around town or around other towns, I should say. But these disc replay locations tend to be in more populated areas, and they're not usually too far off the path that I'm already taking, so they don't add too much time to wherever I'm going. So hopefully this helps you out a little bit. And if you know of any other places in Illinois and Indiana, please feel free to leave them in the comments, not only to help myself, but to help anybody else who might be searching for Skylanders in the area. Together, we can work together to help complete everyone's collection.